All right, Simon Head for MMA Junkie. Joining me via the wonders of video conferencing is the showstopper himself, Peter Queally. Peter, how are things going for you over there, and what's things like for you right now?
It's going okay. There's been worse times for people. This is a holiday at the end of the day, so it's not that bad. It's all right. People complaining need to get a bit of perspective on what something really bad is.
How are you feeling the time over there at the moment? Obviously, training. I guess you could probably do a bit of training. Obviously, you're still rehabbing the knee, I guess, and having to ease your way back. So, first off, give us a status update on the knee and what sort of issues you have getting it assessed and things like that with social distancing and issues like that. And then also how you're sort of working your way back from a training perspective.
My knee is good. I'm lucky. I'm kind of more or less out of the woods with like rehab and consulting with doctors and stuff just as this whole thing happens. So I'm kind of okay that way. There still is a bit of pain. I'm not fully 100%, but it's really good. I can pretty much do every kind of training except grappling. It's still a bit kind of just a bit too high risk for grappling. I feel a bit of pain when I grapple, but literally everything else I can do. I'm really lucky because I have my own gym and it's not far from my house. So I'm training every day. I'm just in there on my own privately, just doing my thing. It's kind of boring. I'm sick of doing the bleeding roar and ski erg and bikes and all these things, but at least I'm training. So I'm lucky that way. I'm still training like once a day, pretty hard. So it's good.
And you're in an interesting spot because the date that you're booked to fight is a date that might potentially still be achievable in terms of having a fully fledged event, whether it be behind closed doors or with a crowd. But the sort of timeline we're looking at, and it's very difficult to sort of second guess any of this, but it seems like it might be the sort of date that might still be able to go ahead if things start to ease over the next few months. I mean, is that your mindset that you're still working towards that October the 3rd date?
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, it's just about possible. I think that date. I think anything before that's not going to go ahead personally. I think September, October, you might possibly see events take place. So I'm still, yeah, like you said, I'm still just have that in my head. That's my next fight, and I think it will take place. I just have a feeling that things will clear up, and it's a long time. It's 6 months away. But I think anything in the summer is out of the question, to be honest. But I think we hopefully it will take place. But I am training with that in my mind.
And I guess trying to look on the bright side of all of this. This is, in terms of a career standpoint, you're not losing any ground on anybody right now. Normally, when you're out injured, the world continues without you, and then you're kind of playing catch up to try and get back on the train again. But everybody's in standstill right now. So if ever there was a time to be rehabbing an injury and working your way back, I guess during a period of downtime when no one else is fighting is kind of ideal for you.
Yeah, it's worked out good, and even the fight itself. When Bellator came to me with this fight, I was like, holy shit, that's 7 months away. Like the first thing I said, and there was kind of a discussion, blah blah blah, and different whatever. We discussed this, and they made the situation very appealing to me, shall I say, to wait for this fight. So it's after working out good for me. I wouldn't be fighting anyway probably now. Or not probably, definitely, because I wanted to get another one in, but they wanted me to hold on for this one because it was such a big fight. I think they were worried maybe one of us would get injured or something, and I wanted this for the main event for Dublin. So as you said, it's worked out perfectly. I wouldn't be fighting anyway. No one is fighting anyway, and it's, yeah, as you said, it's after working out really, really, really good for me.
On paper, at least, it looks to me like the sort of the Bellator lightweight division. There's 2 fights that are due to take place, and of those 2 fights, 3 guys from those 2 fights. If we take Patricky out of the mix because he's unlikely to fight his brother for a belt, I would imagine. So that leaves you, and that leaves Benson Henderson, Michael Chandler in their matchup. How much does this SBG versus Pitbull brothers rivalry that has bubbled up over the last 12 to 18 months or so, how much is that a benefit to you right now? Because if you get past his brother and you put the sort of statement performance that I know you're planning against Patricky, how much of a boost does that give you when you're calling for your shot against Patricio at the end of it?
This is the number one contender fight. It is, like, to be honest, Benson and Michael Chandler really is the number one contender fight. If you're being fair about things, and that's I understand that, but because it's his brother, and because of the back and forth nature that this fight's going to have, and all that's going to be on the line, when I beat him, and I'll need to beat him convincingly and in an exciting manner, but I plan to do that, obviously. That's 100%. It makes no sense for him not to fight me after that. So I'm fully confident, like 100% sure, if I get past Patricky, I am going to jump, and I am jumping the queue. Let's be honest. It probably should be one of the two lads, but it won't matter. This is not what this business is about, as we all know. It's about something else. So I think if I do beat his brother, I am 100% positive I'm going to skip the queue and fight Patricio next.
The whole rivalry thing is kind of interesting. I mean, having a rivalry is one thing, but then sometimes rivalries sort of step over the line and become more personal. Has it become personal for you, or is it literally just a rivalry? You've got one team who want to prove their dominance over another team. Is it just a sporting thing for you, or has it kind of crossed the line? And where is that line? How does it kind of work? I mean, we've seen it with you, with your teammate Conor and Khabib. It started out as a rivalry, and then it sort of became more than that. Where is that line, and how do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I don't think me and Patricky are there yet, to be honest. I think it's just a sporting rivalry, personally. Like, I'm not losing any sleep over him, put it that way. I don't know how he feels about it, but I do want to beat him up and prove that we are better. He's done a lot of talking, actually, about kind of mocking my team, basically, as much as me or whatever, like saying SBG this, SBG that. They're the ones who started this, about, as you said, about 18 months ago. So it's going to be nice to put an exclamation mark on who the better team is, and me and Pedro are going to do that. It kind of started with James, actually, and me, and now Pedro has kind of worked his way into it, obviously. So it's me and Pedro versus the two brothers, and that's perfect. We're going to win both these fights. Pedro's going to win too. Everyone's sleeping on Pedro, and I understand why. Patricio is an excellent fighter, but stylistically, this is probably the worst matchup I think Patricio could have taken in Pedro, and I won't go into too much detail on that, but you'll see that when the fight happens. And I fully believe by the end of this year, it'll be 2-0 to SBG, and this thing will be put to bed. And then, it'll be 3-0 then, and probably next year, 2021, when I fight Patricio as well. So that's what I'm hoping for, is 3-0 across the board here, and just shut them up once and for all.
Do you think that you're, certainly from the Pitbull brothers side, do you think that you in particular are being sort of underestimated insofar as you've got 2 fights in Bellator on a global stage, but before you got your shot in Bellator, you were going around Europe and even Africa, taking really tough fights in really tough organizations, and Russia. The Fight Night Global. Yeah, so that's kind of the point I was gonna make to you. I mean, how much value is all of those hard yards that you've done, maybe not under the glare of the big event spotlight so much, when it comes to sort of the Western MMA world, but you've built all this up in the background, and maybe there's people, possibly even the Pitbull brothers, who aren't fully aware of the credentials that you've built doing that, all that sort of perhaps unseen work across Europe and in Africa leading into this.
They are aware. They're not stupid. They especially my time in Russia, real fighters and real media people and real fans of the sport know what that Russian landscape is like. They're all juiced out of their minds. They're all excellent fighters. They're like amazing fighters. It's the Wild West over there, and it's a really hard place to get wins. And I basically went undefeated over there. I had 1 loss. That was a win. Really, if you watch that fight against Islam Begidov, it was I got fucked over on the decision, as often happens in these places. So they're not stupid. They know. They're not underestimating. They know, even though that the spotlight isn't on you as much in these places, real fans of the sport and people who know what's going on know the level I fought at over there. and how I performed. So as you said, even though I'm now just kind of in the big show in Bellator, I have many big fight experiences under my belt. Like my last couple of fights in Russia were actually in 15,000 seater stadiums. They were both 5 rounders. So this is nothing new to me. And they know that. Patricky knows that. He's not stupid. He knows that.
Yeah, and in terms of, you know, big crowds and all the rest of it, if we're in a position where maybe crowds are allowed back by October, and you end up in that 3 arena competing in front of a huge, was it 9,000? Is it 9,500 you can get in there these days?
Close to 10, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like a 12th man or an extra corner man for you on fight night. You know, we've seen it. You know, the Ryan Scope fight was obviously was an incredible thing to be there to actually witness, from the walkout all the way through to the performance and the reaction that followed. What can Patricky expect if he ends up fighting you at the 3 arena on October 3rd in front of a packed house?
Very hostile environment, and it'll be an absolute shame if this doesn't take place in the 3 arena. If for some reason they have it and it's maybe in a smaller arena because of crowds, etc., which could happen. But for the spectacle of it, what it will be, me versus Patricky, it should be in the 3 arena, because this is going to be like against Scope. There was no animosity with Scope. I actually quite like Ryan Scope, and I think he felt the same about me. There was respect there and stuff, and even in the build-up, there was nothing. Afterwards, it was all respect and everything. And even though the crowd got on his back a little bit, they didn't really, because they know I have nothing against him, so they didn't really take it to him. But wait till you see this for Patricky, because they know I don't like him. They're going to eat him alive in that arena. It's going to be madness in there. I think it's going to be the biggest spectacle from a crowd perspective Bellator will ever have put on if this goes ahead in the 3 arena, because of the nature of the fight and because of how they're going to treat him, because I don't like him. So I really hope it does go ahead in that arena. It'll be so crazy. It'll be one of the all-time great Irish MMA moments, I think, if it does go ahead.
What are you doing with yourself outside of training? How are you staving off the boredom? What are you doing?
Oh fuck! I'm like my Fortnite and Call of Duty level is just, after going up about tenfold. I'm just playing a lot of video games. I'm getting up a little later in the morning than I'm normally like up really early, but I'm getting up a little later now because I'm staying up so late just out of boredom, kind of just like playing video games and stuff. I get up, have breakfast, I go train, and I take my time doing all these things as well. I really stall out the breakfast and do a bit of reading and stuff. Then I train and I take my time doing that as well. Then I go to the supermarket, do the day shopping, come home, whatever, cook my dinner, and then that's when the problem starts. Then is once about 7 o'clock comes and you're at home for the evening, you've nothing to do. But I'm just like playing video games and watching Netflix and doing the same thing everyone's doing. Going for a walk and things and whatever. Just, it's boring as fuck, isn't it? So you're doing the same thing, yeah?
It sure is. Yeah, I'll work till like 8 p.m. most days. So by the time I've done that, I've got 2 crazy kids to charge around. Try and keep it. It's a miracle no one's walked through that door, to be honest, during the interview. I think my wife's got them bound and gagged downstairs because Daddy's doing an interview. But
I'm lucky in that regard. I have no kids. I don't feel sorry for people with kids, but you know what I mean? I look at even my brother and stuff with his kids, and they're all like in the house together. I'd say it's stressful. It's just like, it's a different level of problems when you have to entertain them as well and keep them happy through all this. Whereas at least I just have to keep myself entertained, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's madness. It's madness for all of us. But fingers crossed, we'll all get through this. And touch wood, everything else that, you know, we're back in an arena on October the 3rd. That would be fantastic to see.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm praying. I think we will. I think there's just about a long enough time between now and then that it could realistically be sort of. I think the UFC could be under pressure on August 15th. I don't see that going ahead. I think that even though it's only 6 weeks or 7 weeks between the 2 events, I think that could be even enough to kind of. I just don't see things being right here. But by then it's hard. Like it's one thing lifting the travel bans and the lockdown measures, but then it's another thing to allow 10,000 people to congregate all together and be gargled and grabbing each other, and do you know what I mean? Because that's what them events are. It's like a big party. You've been at it, you know what it's like. It's it's not as if they're sitting down in their seats just behaving themselves. It's a mad scene in there.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of contact, a lot of people together. So I don't know. But I do think it's probably just about enough time. Another thing I think as well, like the Premier League and the NFL and all these things start around September, and I think they will be aiming to have them, like Joe, taking place or whatever. So that will set a precedent. If those things can take place, well, then the fights can take place as well. I think too. So I think that could help guide things along a bit first.